Hey everyone, Sleepy Reader here. This is a little embarrassing because I even posted on my channel that I was on hiatus, and I mentioned to some people that I was on hiatus. I've deactivated my Twitter account temporarily, and I wasn't going to make any videos. But I just felt the strong urge to. I had wanted to kind of clear my head and think about other things for a while, but there you go. This habit of talking about comics I've been reading is hard to let go of. And so mostly today what I want to do is rave about 3 of the comics I read this week. And at the end of the video, I will totally bash 2 of the comic books I read this week. And so that discussion of those 2 that I'm bashing, which are both the endings of series in one way or another, so it might involve some spoilerishness, especially for people who are waiting for trades or who haven't read these last issues yet. So I'll leave those for the end, and if you don't want them spoiled. I think I generally don't spoil books, so just wanted to give you that warning. And also, maybe you don't want to hear bashing of books. So, but I kind of felt strongly. But I also felt those 2 that I did not like were the first 2 I read. But later I read these other 3 that just reminded me why I loved comics books so much. So one of them was the latest issue of Earth 2. Which is currently written by Tom Taylor, who replaced James Robinson. I like the James Robinson Earth 2, but this has been really excellent. Earth 2's just gone up many notches, and this might be, for me, the best issue yet. Even though it's in the middle of the storyline and stuff, I think you could pick this up and enjoy it and sort of jump on board at this point. You know, you'd have to figure out a few things, but I think you would get filled in pretty well. We get the stirrings of the return of the Green Lantern, but the most of the story focuses on our small group of heroes who are hiding out from the evil dark side version of Superman. And the art and the coloring are at such a really high level. I feel like the whole team must be, feeling really inspired right now. Hopefully they can just keep following their story and keep doing what they're doing. Just look at that color. I mean, that alone is amazing. I think Nicholas Scott's art has never been better, or, it just keeps getting better. It's cool scenes of this young Kryptonian learning how to fly. So I just really love this issue, both in the characterization and in the art. As I was hoping, the Lois Lane Red Tornado character is really interesting, but this young boy who's from Krypton is also interesting. So it's just, this is a superhero comic that is really clicking. So, obviously everyone has their own tastes, but I think it's something to take a look at if you're interested. So there was that. That just brought me sheer superhero pleasure to read. And sort of fantasy horror pleasure was in this issue of Swamp Thing, continuing a now pretty lengthy run by Charles Soule. Hopefully will continue to be a very long run by Charles Soule, and with very nice art by Jesus Saez and his regular colorist, Matthew Wilson. So anyway, the last issue of Swamp Thing was a little weaker than the regular issues, than the issues have been. But I think things pop right back up, and everything really clicks in this issue. We're getting an interesting cast of characters surrounding the Swamp Thing, And although the Swamp Thing's body has been stolen from him, and that sort of feeling of repetition that Swamp Thing keeps getting tricked by people, is still there a little bit. It's ameliorated by the fact that this is just so good and done so well, and there's some sort of interesting little revelations and twists going on leading up very much to the last page. So I was extremely happy with this Swamp Thing. The art does look a little different to me, even though it's the same art team. I don't know if the artist has shifted modes a bit, but this was an intensely enjoyable issue for me. And then the most enjoyable issue of the week in my reading was Black Science. Now, this camera angle I know is really odd, but I started it, so I got to stick with it. The art was fantastic. The story just keeps getting better. There's interesting twists. The art is fantastic. This is a beautiful, beautiful comic book, a beautiful product on such nice paper, printed so well, with such good art, such great storytelling. You read this, or at least for me, who's a huge science fiction fan, you read this and you say, this is what comic books should be. This is sheer joy. So I'm not going to try to give away too much. I don't think there was anything I didn't like about this issue. And I'll be interested to see where it goes next. And it has a great cliffhanger ending. I'm just loving Black Science. What I kind of ping pong about, comics really suck these days, or then they're really great. We're in a golden age, and this to me, Black Science right now epitomizes this golden age of Image Comics. So loving that. Can't wait for the next issue. I guess most Image Comics tend to take a hiatus every 6 issues. This is issue 5. If they do take a hiatus, I hope it won't be too long. We've now learned something even about what this little symbol means and who designed it, which of the characters in the book designed it. So, just a fantastic science fiction book. I'll quickly run down. So I had quite a few books this week that I read. I enjoyed Action Comics. It says Prelude to Doomed, so it just has a few pages. And the rest is the finale of the story that's just wrapping up. It didn't 100% make sense to me who this ghost person in the tower was, and there was a little bit that had me confused as to whether they have something to do with Doomsday. But in any case, it was an enjoyable issue. It was fun. I'm not gonna pick up the Doomed issues. So this is my last issue of Action for a while. I might pick up Doomed in a trade, and I'll probably come back to Action Comics when the Doomed crossover is finished. And I'll probably, Doomed is going to cross over with, Action, this series is going to cross over with Superman and Wonder Woman Superman. I'll probably get Wonder Woman Superman in trades. I don't know if I'll get the Doomed portion of everything in trade or skip that. As many of the people in our community have done, I picked up The Premature Burial by Richard Corbin and, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. Loved the art. I've only actually read one of the 2 stories in here, and I want to go back and read the actual Premature Burial story because maybe I never read it. It's not what I thought it was going to be. The art was fantastic. The only thing I don't understand with Richard Corbin's Poe stories is why he keeps putting in Mag the Hag, who looks like a man. I mean, let's face it. She's bald. There's nothing female looking about her face. I'm sure there's an old woman out there who looks like that, and I feel sorry for her for being so bald. But I just don't get this Mag the Hag. That's kind of my only downside to the Richard Corbin thing. His art is amazing. I gather he is over 70 years old, but you wouldn't know that he's not in his heyday. And, maybe this is evidence that people in their 70s can be even better than when they were young, artistically. Even probably with less hair. So, actually, looking at the second part here, I can't wait to read The Cask of, I never can pronounce that name, Amontillado. This story's so familiar to me that I kind of put off reading it, But anyway, fun stuff. She-Hulk. I don't think this book is going to last long. I don't think it has a strong direction or feel to it. I actually liked the art better in this issue than the previous issue. I thought there were all kinds of interesting layout things, interesting touches. We're in this coffee shop and we see every single person on their cell phone. The colors are beautiful. So I really enjoyed the art. I guess I just don't even look too closely at She-Hulk's face, which is really the one flaw with the art for me. But the story did not engage. The Victor Von Doom's son didn't interest me very much as presented here. It was a clever satire on a really rich person's life, but gave me no edge to care about him and there was no reason to care about She-Hulk. She was just a lawyer solving a problem. There were a few fun moments. But yeah, I don't, as much as I love a lot of Charles Soule's work, it seems mostly his work at DC, and I'll keep getting this, I don't see it being a long-lived series. Not that Marvel even aims for long-lived series at the moment. Issue 2 of Starlight was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to what's happening next. I unfortunately heard some podcast, it might have been iFanboy, point out that this was Mark Millar in his sort of Hollywood mode, and suddenly I can see all of this as being, with the old guy and the cute young kid, as being kind of a feel-good, Pixar-ish, Steven Spielberg-ish, perhaps, kind of movie script turned into a comic book. There's nothing wrong with that. And I really liked the Flash Gordon design elements. So maybe this will turn out to be something I can read with my daughter soon. So it's not bad. Fandom Stranger, my guilty pleasure. This really is, the writer J.M. DeMatteis is kind of emotionally stuck in pre-Alan Moore 80s comics style of emotional connection to the characters. So it feels very retro and simplified. I love the art, and the story's okay. But I'm just really into this artist for this book. So I guess I'll probably keep buying it as long as he's on it. Although I am looking for places to cut. I really enjoy his art. Be nice to see him on a strong superhero book. Maybe the Flash or something. Okay, now here's the two books that really pissed me off. Particularly Trillium. So let me talk about the final issue of The Indestructible Hulk. Written by poor Mark Waid, beloved by all of us for his work, or most of us for his work on Daredevil, but he just couldn't seem to get his act together on the Hulk. And maybe it suffered by having the wrong artist at first and then kind of rotating artists. Matteo Scalera, from now on Black Science, was the artist for a nice little arc, time travel arc. But every time the Hulk seemed to begin to click, this version of the Hulk where Bruce Banner works for S.H.I.E.L.D., it then seemed to fall apart. So this is the final issue before they reboot it. They're just, instead of the Indestructible Hulk, it's going to be called just Hulk. and I don't think he's going to be at S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. So here's where I really spoil it. This is the final issue of a run. It ends with someone has apparently shot Bruce Banner in the head. Shades of Green Arrow and Hawkeye. So we've got a cliffhanger was been shot, to be continued next month in Hulk #1. So the only it just goes to show exactly how fake these reboots have been. At least in Daredevil, they kind of wrapped everything up. His New York life ended, and he was moving to San Francisco. Here, it's just going to continue the story, and the only thing that's going to be different is the title of the magazine. It's going to be called The Hulk. But it just has not been engaging, and you may ask, well, I keep getting it. It's because this is a subscription copy. I have a 12-issue subscription with Marvel. They mail it to me a week or 2 or 3 late. Someone had asked me, this is a direct edition, so they do send in their subscriptions, they send the direct edition, not the newsstand edition. And I guess maybe they don't publish newsstand editions anymore. So anyway, I mean, it just seemed like another low in cheap marketing to me. And I don't even care that Bruce Banner's been shot, because nothing in here has made me care. I don't know what went so wrong with Mark Waid on the Hulk. Was it editorial stuff? Is this just like the least important book to him, so he's not putting a lot of effort into it? I believe he is continuing in the rebooted Hulk. I don't know who the artist will be. The artists keep changing. So then Trillium really kind of represented some of my disappointment in comics sometimes, and comics that come to an ending, and perhaps in Jeff Lemire. I loved Trillium. The first 4 issues, I was thinking this is going to be a modern masterwork, something we'll remember for 20 years from now, and be loaning to friends who like science fiction and want to try comics or something. But it started to unravel or just go off in weird directions with issue 5. So 5 and 6 seemed like weak issues. Maybe with issue 6, I can't remember. But the last few issues have not been terribly strong, but I thought, well, maybe he has some clever idea where he's going to bring all these things together. But he did not have a terrible idea. Some great idea. He did not have a great idea. He just had a terrible idea. So, now retroactively, I hate the whole series. I think this is going to be forgettable, and I think that Jeff Lemire, has showed so much promise as a writer and here as an artist, but it's his writing, I think, that is his creativity. That's the strong point. That he's creating important work. But he created all this interesting stuff in the beginning of this comic, and then just pretty much threw it all away. So there was the interesting aliens. There's this whole interesting thing of how the humans are going to solve their problem for the attack of this sentient virus. The sentient virus was a great idea, and the key to getting to solving the problem with the sentient viruses, they thought, was the Trillium flowers. The book's called Trillium. Even that point is gone by the end of the book. It was billed as a love story, but the characters never spent much time together. Here at the very end of the book, they say, well, even though we haven't spent much time together, we love each other. This is the closest they get to a romantic moment, this little semi-hug. It's almost like a book by someone who can't follow through on their feelings or on their ideas. I just feel really jerked around by it. Then there was the whole time flipping where they flipped through time and the one person was living in the other person's time, and the other, so the guy from the past was suddenly the person from the future, and the person from, and there were all kinds of interesting themes about mirror images of each other that were never brought together. Why did they have that time flip? The only answer is, it's science fiction, so it's trippy. So we'll have a trippy ending. We'll have them go into a black hole and have a symbolic being sucked into the black hole, which somehow has a star in it, which then ends up being the star that a little kid is drawing on the side of a tent where the few survivors are. But how long will they survive? Because this sentient virus just keeps hunting down humanity, right? They haven't solved their problem. They've just escaped once more for a brief while, and our characters have made their escape. And I was very disappointed with the end of Animal Man, too, although not on the level that I'm disappointed with this. But in that, it seemed like he just tossed out a few sentimental, aces up his sleeve that he had to pretend that he was ending Animal Man without resolving things in any kind of believable way, or even picking up all the threads he'd thrown out. And here, it's just an enormous job of unresolved threads and ideas that were thrown out and never used. I had been thinking, in the earlier issues of Trillium, how science fiction was being done so great in comics. I mean, he even named a character Pohl, which I think was named after Frederick Pohl, the great science fiction writer from the 60s and 70s. But he's not following through at all with his science fiction ideas. It's almost like he just doesn't know what to do with them, which, I have lots of great science fiction ideas that I don't know how to turn into stories. So I can sympathize on that level, I suppose. But, yeah, I was excited to be buying this in single issues, but I'm going to be looking very closely at anything by Jeff Lemire in the future, and maybe buying the trades if there's a sense of a real ending. It's like he has this logical side of his brain where he builds up a plot and some ideas, and then some illogical side of his brain that he uses to end them. So anyway, that's my my little rant. And of course, it's just comics. I didn't have to buy it, but I got my expectations. And so it's Jeff Lemire's talent that frustrates me. There were some portions of his run on Animal Man and, the first half of this Trillium miniseries that were so good and promised to be so unique and special, and he just seems to throw it away. So he takes something good and turns it into something disposable and forgettable, sadly. Hopefully, I hear he's doing really great stuff on Green Arrow right now, so hopefully that won't end up that way. In retrospect, thinking about his work on Justice League Dark, it was exciting, and there was always a promise that things were going to come together more, but then that just all got lost in the Trinity War, and then and the Forever Evil, and then it was gone. He was gone from the book, and now it's a very different book. So anyway, I'm not so bitter. I mean, I had plenty of comic books to enjoy this week. But it is funny how there really is a problem with ending things. And that's one reason why I really enjoy some of the short form comics that I get every now and then. Like Adventures of Superman and like this. When you do a short story, a smaller ending is fine. It's when you do a big, long story and you make it cosmic and you make high emotions and all of that, you gotta follow it up in some way that's going to leave me satisfied. even this story kind of petered out. But I'm talking about the Action Comics story, but not in a big way, in a little way, and it's a continuing thing, and also in a way, this is why I like an ongoing comic book, a kind of never-ending story where you don't have to face that problem with endings. So on that level, it's kind of a shame that Marvel is turning their books into kind of miniseries books, unless the writers have really good endings up their sleeve. Obviously, Mark Waid did not have a good ending up his sleeve for the end of his Hulk run. How many issues did he do? His 20-issue run on the Hulk. By ending it, I really noticed that he didn't accomplish anything. That the series never ramped up and never developed the interesting ideas that were latent within it. Okay, thanks for listening to me rant and rave. Enjoy your comic books. Comic books are good and they are great. When they are great, they are so great. Talk to y'all later.